You might have heard of Ledger for Azure SQL Database and SQL Server. In this episode, we will dive into some examples, some demos, and how you can get started with Ledger in SQL Server and Azure SQL this week on Data Exposed MVP Edition. Hi, I'm Anna Hoffman, and welcome to this episode of Data Exposed MVP Edition. Today, I'm super lucky to be joined by Karen. Karen, thanks so much for joining us today. Can you kick us off by telling us a little bit about what you do?
Oh, wow. Great question. So the title I've been using lately is Data Evangelist because I'm a little bit of everything. I feel like I'm speaking for the data. So I'm a Microsoft MVP in data platform. Lately, I've been focusing on security and data quality, and the topic today sure pulls those together.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a great lead in, and I'm so glad we have you on the show because I know you've been working with customers with Ledger Technologies. And today we're going to be taking a deeper look because we've done some episodes with Peter and Jakob and other folks from the team. But what we're going to do with you is a deeper look. How do I actually get started? What are people actually doing with this? And all that sort of good stuff. So with that, I'll just kind of pass it to you. I've only seen the intro related stuff. So let's get right into it.
Oh, that's great. And thank you for having me here. So there's been a lot of content, as you said, already on Data Exposed about sort of the basic fundamentals. So I'm going to point everyone to go watch those for the sort of introductory level stuff. I wanted to talk today just a little bit about why you might want to use these in your plain old databases, as also how can you go from databases you already have in production to taking advantage of SQL Ledger tables and databases. So some of the fundamentals about blockchain in general, so I'm not just talking about ledger tables here, is that we typically say that it's a special type of system that is optimized for immutability and building trust and tamper evidence into your data systems. So these have timestamp transactions, immutability, distributed, multiply owned nodes, and each node has blocks that are chained together along with cryptographic hashes of those. The difference between what SQL Ledger does and what full-blown blockchain solutions do is that SQL Ledger is right inside existing SQL Server and Azure SQL DB products and services. So it doesn't have that one component of blockchain which is distributed multi-owned nodes. And that's actually, from my point of view, a benefit because of course we don't want people seeing all the transactions in our own ledgers. So this kind of fits in that spot between full-blown blockchain and regular SQL Server. So I want to point out that a lot of people, as soon as I start talking about blockchain, they tune it out because they see blockchain is a fluffy buzzword that's only associated with evil transactions and Bitcoin. But that's not true. And I want to point out as well, as I get a lot of feedback as I talk about this, that blockchain does not validate the accuracy of the data. If you lie to the blockchain or to a ledger table, they're going to happily process all that data and say it's totally true. So just a brief overview of ledger tables in Azure SQL DB and SQL Server. You have the SQL database engine. You have these ledger views, these ledger tables that show you your ledger. You can have either updatable or append-only ledger tables. And if they are updatable, they're still really only append only, but with a history table that keeps track of what it used to be. So they're really a hybrid of what you think of updating a table. And I love this feature in the Microsoft products because many other database products in this area don't support this sort of logical updatability to it. And then there's the solid red line. The way you're going to be able to trust your data is you have these fancy dancing DBAs who are processing data against the tables, doing their normal DBA stuff, because it's just a property of a table in SQL Server. It's not a special type of system. It's just a table with an additional property. And we'll see that in a minute. So you build this giant wall of defense between that and where all the digests are stored, which are the ways that you will be able to see if the data in the database has been tampered with, because the ledgers themselves are held in a separate accounting system, meaning a separate storage system. And if one person has access to both of these things and you're not using confidential computing, you might not be able to trust it. So some key features in ledger tables. You can have both a ledger database, that means all the tables in it are ledger tables. It uses database digests that in Azure SQL DB are automatically created, these storage accounts that hold all the digests. You have the ledger tables that can be updated or append only. You should use immutable storage for recording these transactions. And then there's a feature where you can go ask the ledger system, hey, is the data in my database still consistent with what was stored in the immutable storage? So when I say it's just a simple property of a table, if we look at this very simple database, this create script, you can see in order to make it an append-only table, all I do is my regular create statement. I can generate the scripts no matter how I normally generate them, and just add with ledger on and append only on. And append only on is optional. If you just say ledger on, it should make it append only. If you
Quick question. This is for a new table, but what if I had an existing table? Could I still turn on ledger?
You can, but not like using an alter statement. So you can't just say, you know, alter the table to add this property. And I'm going to have a demo where I show you how you need to do it.
Cool.
But yeah, that's my first question. So also with an updatable table, it's the same thing. You say system versioning on, and that means behind the scenes, SQL Server or Azure SQL DB is maintaining all these history tables, taking care of generating all the blocks and everything, so that you can go back and ask the ledger, you know, this is the current value, what were the previous values? So to answer your question, Anna, can you alter it? No, you have to use a migration-like process. So depending on the size and the complexity of the tables that you would like to convert, what you would do is create a new ledger table. Basically, what I do, script it out of SQL Server Management Server as a create statement, give it a new name, give it the properties, then copy the data from the existing table to the new table, and then clean up the previous table. Now, of course, if it's a very large table or you have those life complexities like relational integrity, referential integrity, and all of those things, you'll have to do this just like any other migration by creating the tables in the right order, turning off the referential integrity, and moving on to those things as well. So I have a little demo of how this would work. In this demo, I have this table from NASA. Did I mention I'm also a NASA Datanaut? So I like to use NASA Open Data for my demos. In this table, I've got something called Near Earth comments. This is NASA data that keeps track of where all the comments are that are near Earth, because we might need to keep track of them. So I want to create this as a ledger table because I wouldn't want someone to go in and accidentally mess with the data or update the wrong table. So I have this table, but now I'm creating it again new as a ledger table, and I'm adding system versioning on, telling it what I want it to name the history table, and saying making it a ledger one. Then I'm using the stored procedure to copy data in batches from the previous table to the new table. And that happened really quickly because this table isn't that large and it doesn't have any dependencies on other tables. But now we have that protection for this, these comments, that we're going to know that people probably aren't messing with the data.
Oh yeah, you can even say, it says ledger updatable.
Yeah, so that's how I'm naming it for my demos. I do recommend, I'm not a fan of what I call metadata stuffing, which is putting properties of something inside the name, but it probably is a good idea as you're learning these things to make sure that everyone knows it's a special type of table.
Oh,
So
I was curious, Karen, sorry, that there's a little icon that's slightly different on the
yes,
table. Is that like the ledger indicator?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, okay.
And that's a
Got it.
good
That's what I
thing.
meant. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is great in Microsoft tools, but if you use third-party tools such
True.
as a data modeling tool or a database tool or something like that, or just, I don't know, scripting, you won't necessarily have those indicators, but great question. So that was an append-only table. So also in my database, I have a table that the original non-ledger table was called meteorite landings, but I want that to be append only because of course a meteorite doesn't really land twice. So I don't want someone going in there and messing with it. So if I try to update first, if I try to update the original table, it's going to let me do it. But if I try to update the ledger table, it's going to say you can't update append only tables. So that means if you're using ledger tables, your applications, your systems that use it will also have to be able to process these types of error messages as well. So one of the last things I wanted to talk about is how are we going to trust this data more? You saw in that little mini demo that it's going to stop me from an append-only ledger table is going to update like T-SQL, but I also want to be able to ask SQL Server, is the data still in the database still consistent with all of the data that's over in that immutable storage? So what digest verification does is it checks the hashes in the digest to see if anybody has altered the data and caused the chains to lose track of each other. It does a report based on where the digest is, but this whole verification is totally dependent upon separation of duties. You can't have verification that you can trust if the same person or the same group has access to both the database and the digest, and they're not in something really locked down like confidential computing. So if I go back to SQL Server Management Studio, you can see that I can run this query, which is available in the docs resources, where I'm going to just ask for this database, are there any digests that are out of sync with the databases? You can see that it says Ledger database has succeeded, and I throw in the snarky response, but double check no one has changed the digest location, because that's also something you need to manage. It's also telling me where the digest is that it's verifying against. There's all these things that need to be taken care of so that you can truly have confidence in your data, but we have to manage all the additional features that make that work.
Got it. This is super cool. I haven't seen it at this level of detail. As we start to wrap up, Karen, one question that I had that I think other folks might have as well is, how does this impact performance?
I do get that a lot. I remember getting that question all the time with does like row level encryption or everything? And my answer to that is the same. Of course, there's extra processing that has to happen. It's going to impact performance. But my response to that is that's okay, because if you need ledger tables, you need ledger tables. All the ways we used to try to do this in the past by writing our own log tables via post-transaction auditing, all of those take costs and risks as well. So just like encryption, if you need encryption, you pay the price of encryption. If you need ledger tables and ledger databases, then set your standards so that you're going to take advantage of these features and understand the cost, benefit, and risks.
Got it. No, that's a great answer. So thank you, Karen. And Karen, I learned so much in this episode. I think our viewers did as well. As we wrap, to our viewers, in the description, we're going to put some links and items for you to check out to learn more. If you like this episode, go ahead and give it a like, leave us a comment, and let us know what you think of these Ledger capabilities and some of the things Karen showed us today. And we hope to see you next time on Data Exposed.